Brexit broke Britain.
Hello, I'm Peter Cook with Reboot Britain. In this series we're going to do a Brexit stock take, looking at the politics, economics, sociology, technology, legalities and the environmental impacts of Brexit. We will also look at what the opposition are doing and what we can do about it. For now, if you like these films, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, share the films, find Reboot Britain and Rage Against the Brexit Machine on Facebook, Twitter and so on. Let's begin with the economics. It was recently revealed that Brexit is costing us £40 billion a year. Every year. 40 billion quid. That's a lot of noughts, and it's all for nout. Remember, we were told we were going to get 39 billion after we left the EU. Then the government said this was an overestimate. The point of the matter is simple. 40 is more than 39. And that's just the tip of the Brexit iceberg. We have not gained anything from Brexit, and it's now costing us 40 billion every year. This sets the stage for everything we might want to do in the future in Britain. For example, paying public service workers, growing the economy, reaching net zero. Literally everything. It's like having a massive millstone around our necks as we try to swim for freedom. People tell me it's not about the economy, stupid, it's about freedom. I don't know about you, but a 40 billion quid millstone around my neck is certainly going to restrict my freedom going forward. In June 2022, careful analysis showed that Brexit has caused a 5.5% drop in GDP. This was exactly in the middle of the range of figures predicted by our own government a few years ago. This GDP loss will affect Britain's resilience to face internal and external shocks long into the future. Think of resilience as a shock absorber. When we have resilience in our personal lives, we have a bit of headroom to face life's little surprises, such as a car breakdown, the loss of a job, needing to care for a loved one, or your pet needing a vet. In organisational life, resilience is the same thing, and many NHS hospitals are operating at 95% capacity. That's close to breaking point. Thus, a small shock is enough to put a hospital into crisis. So it is also with UK PLC due to the Brexit millstone. Brexit has put Britain into critical care. Britain has also suffered an 11% decrease in exports, despite the devaluation of the pound, which should have made our exports more competitive. Trading goods is down 7% and trading services also down 7%. When Jacob Rees-Mogg said the sunny uplands were just around the corner with cheaper food and training shoes, quite simply, Jacob lied. Mogg's sunny uplands are always just round the corner, aren't they?
Conference rebelled.
Just for devilment or fun, we then had Liz Truss in 2022. The Truss was only in office for 6 weeks, probably only around 10 days after you take out bank holidays, enforced grieving and recesses. In that time and over just one weekend, the Truss subjected the country to what could be described as a clinical trial in Brexonomics. She trashed the economy, sending the pound into freefall, costing the taxpayer 30 billion. Just think about that, 30 billion in a weekend. This meant that Rishi Sunak had to tax us 46 billion just to make up the shortfall. He is also unlikely to recover 20 billion of COVID loans given out to businesses who are unlikely to repay those loans. So, when Rishi says we can't afford to pay nurses and so on, this is a problem of their own making, and he is not a competent custodian of our money, just his own. It seems there's plenty of money down the back of the Tory sofas. And this was not a victimless crime on Liz Truss's part. Many people's hopes and dreams of owning a home have been trashed by the consequential interest rate rises that arose from Truss's careless experiment with Brexit economics on crack cocaine. When people say that this is a new government, they forget we've had nearly 13 years of the Tories. They've had plenty of time to set things right. The Tories can't say we were the poachers, now we are the gamekeepers. Basically, they have completely fucked Britain up. My local MP, Kelly Chav Tolhurst, complained when I called her party Tory Brexit scum. Well, all I can say is, if the cap fits. Keir Starmer should take note, since Brexit consumes all its children. Commercial break. If you find this film helpful, please send us a tip on GoFundMe, Patreon or PayPal. Check the books out, which will help you convert more people to banish Brexit and rejoin the EU. Reboot Britain provides thought leadership on how we will rejoin the EU, plus a practical guide to changing minds on Brexit, which must happen if we are to persuade politicians of the need. Then there's Private Eyelines. Have I got fake Brexit news for you? This parodies our populist media, which fed the lies to people on Brexit and the EU. It includes a detailed fact and fiction decoder to help you banish Brexit bullshit and banter. Find them on Etsy. Please also like, subscribe and share this film. Thank you very much.
Brexit broke Britain.
Of course, Brexiteers would say you have to speculate to accumulate Brexit opportunities. We have speculated on a large scale, so let's look at the upsides in terms of trade, business and all the things we can now do with our freedom from the EU. Michael Gove claims that Brexit has opened up 800 billion of trade deals, but the vast majority of this is what we might call old money. In other words, simply cutting and pasting existing trade deals over with countries willing to continue trading with us after Brexit. The Japan trade deal put forward by Liz Truss produces no net gain on our position before we left. Liz insisted that the cheese dividend would be worth it, yet the vast majority of Japanese people are lactose intolerant. So Liz's cheesy temptation would have killed them. Perhaps this was the plan. The only new money comes from our trade deals with Australia and New Zealand. These are worth between 200 and 500 million quid per annum, not billions. That's only enough to pay for Michelle Moan's dodgy bras, in other words, her fictional PPE company, MedPro. Moan's company took 122 million for PPE that didn't work. It didn't work. Then there's Matt Hancock's trip to the jungle, a cool £400,000, let alone the 4.8 billion that Rishi wrote off for dodgy COVID gowns. The fact remains that we have cut ourselves off from our major market, and the basic rule of trade remains firm. If you double the distance, you halve the trade. But if we want to get petty and just talk about millions instead of billions, we can. From Carrie Johnson's £840 a roll wallpaper to hundreds of millions of pounds of dodgy COVID contracts. Some will say that COVID was emergency and it required massive urgent action. Actually, an emergency requires people to use competent people who have capacity and can hit the road running. Many such companies offered their services to the government, but they were ignored. Instead, our government adopted a careless approach, hiring their mates and cronies with no track record of making this type of equipment or the capacity to do so. No wonder much of it failed. As a scientist who worked in pharmaceutical research and development, I am fully competent to make this judgment. You simply don't take stupid risks in a critical situation. Our government did, just like when Boris Johnson put infected COVID patients into care homes. This strategy had an estimated impact of 40,000 unnecessary deaths. This was a political choice and not a necessity. Tory spaffing by Boris Johnson is estimated to have cost 63 billion. This includes £200,000 for traffic cones used at Dover for one day. Just one fucking day. Then there's £100 million for get ready for Brexit advertisements for Halloween when it didn't happen. 13.8 million for fictional ferry boats. A £1 billion bribe for the DUP to back Brexit. $8 billion for no-deal preparations, and a mere £163,000 for union flag shagging. That's a hell of a lot of flags, and it's a hell of a lot of dosh. But hey, I realise we're talking petty cash in the Tory party's spaffing strategy. They call this government money. Hell no, it's your money. Are you prepared to tolerate this?
Brexit broke Britain.
So, being more positive, how are the Brexit businesses doing? The ones that said it was going to be a walk in the park. Well, Exhibit A is the old dairy brewery in Tenterton. They predicted a boom time on exports after Brexit. With a weak pound, the stars ought to have been aligned for them. Well, it turns out they were completely wrong, and their beer exports fell from £600,000 to £2,000 per annum. Sucking it up further, Wetherspoons said we didn't need foreign beer or foreign stuff, we could do it all ourselves. Well, where are the Brexiteers pulling pints in his pubs? Because they don't appear to have shown up. Neither have they shown up in the fields as surgeons, nuclear scientists or financial services experts. As a result, Tim Witherspoon has called for more migration to deal with staff shortages, closed 39 pubs with more to come, and lost 30 million in 2022, some of which will undoubtedly have come from the COVID hangover. In desperation, Tim has even brought back foreign beer, which I'm happy about. The daft thing here is that Tim Witherspoon is not a stupid man, and he should have really known that all this would happen. This is not a story of Ramona's ruining his pubs, as Jacob Rees-Mogg would have you believe. It is what happens when the Brexit ideology overtakes good business pragmatism. Commercial break! If you find this film helpful, please send us a tip. The links are in the film description on YouTube. Check our books out, Reboot Britain and Private Eye Lines. Please also like, subscribe and share this film. We can do more with your support. Thank you very much in advance. Finally, it turns out the battery manufacturer British Volt has already electrocuted itself, going into administration after just 6 months, without producing a single watt of power for the UK electric vehicle industry. The company was portrayed as an example of how Brexit could free Britain to take back control. Boris Johnson amped up British Volt to his usual hyperbolic levels, but like most of Boris's extrapolations, he left 300 people without jobs in Blyth. High voltage turned into low power consumption. In electrical language, Brexit hurts. So, are there any good news stories about Brexit economics? Well, actually there is one, because trade between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland is booming, whereas east-west trade from GB to Northern Ireland is failing. This is clearly upsetting the DUP, who find their support failing. As a result of this, they are blocking day-to-day operations of the Stormont Parliament to break the will of the people in Northern Ireland. All of this chaos was designed in by Boris Johnson and the DUP when he signed the Brexit deal. It is therefore no surprise, despite what you're being told by Sunak the Snake and others.
Brexit broke Britain.
You might well say that surely this is mischief on the part of the EU. Well, sorry to disappoint you again, but the Northern Ireland Protocol was set up to protect the Good Friday Agreement and the precious peace on the island of Ireland. The DUP and the Conservatives are annoyed precisely because the protocol is doing exactly what it said on the tin. It seems that the much vaunted trade deal with the USA is now threatened by the continued push to trash the Northern Ireland Protocol. When Jacob Rees-Mogg says it's a disgrace, he knew full well that this would be the case. I'm sorry, Jacob, but you know you made your Brexit bed and you must lie in it, mate. Yes, the Brexit bed may be soaked in urine and faeces, obviously these are from the rivers. Nonetheless, you lied about Brexit, so you've got to lie in your Brexit, mate. So, taken together, we can draw the following conclusions from our Brexonomics stock take. Brexonomics is costing the earth $40 billion per year. Liz Truss's Brexit Economics experiment on the nation also cost us an uncool $30 billion. And that's just the tip of the Brexit iceberg. With a 5.5% hit to GDP, our resilience is shot away, and vague ideas of growth are merely a sad Tory wet dream. Brexit trade deals are not delivering anything like the make-up gain we need to grow. If we were a patient in a clinical trial, we would be dead by now. The vast majority of Brexit supporting businesses are now regretting their hubris over Brexit. Some have folded, others have fled the country to set up in Europe and so on. Northern Ireland is a success story in terms of trade, yet the knuckle-dragging Brexiteers are now trying to restore civil war to the island of Ireland to take people's minds off the Brexit-eaten mess. But wait a moment, that's not all, folks. We're just about to have a bonfire of EU laws, 98% of which we in Britain helped to make, at an estimated cost of 80 billion over 30 years. The human and environmental cost of trashing British standards made in Brussels is incalculable. In the words of Bachman Turner Overdrive, you ain't seen nothing yet. In the next film, we're going to take a look at the sociological impacts of Brexit. This will include things like immigration, social care, our way of living, freedom, and much, much more. So join me next time. If you find the film helpful, please send us a tip, check the books and music out. Please also like, subscribe and share this film. Thank you very, very much in advance.
Brexit broke Britain. Brexit Britain broke. Mistakes were made.